What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. Today I want to share with you one of the coolest time-lapse effects that I think I've ever seen. It's a really subtle effect, but it adds this whole nother layer of kind of dimension and movement to your time lapses that, like I said, I've just never really seen anybody do before, and it's actually surprisingly easy to create in Premiere. So I'm going to roll a few clips here of examples so you guys can get an idea of exactly what this effect looks like. Alright, leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think of that effect. So, I'm going to walk you through exactly how, step by step, we can perform this to a time lapse that we've already recorded. Now, I do want to say that beforehand, when you're going out to shoot these time lapses, there's a few key things that you want to think about. First of all is motion. So this effect works best when you have two different stages of motion. So you've got something going on in one half of the frame, or like that upper half with the clouds and the sky, and then something that's separated by a nice horizon line and that's going on in maybe the lower half of the frame, or you could do right and left, however you want to play around with this effect. But the biggest thing is you want to be able to separate it by a nice clear horizon line. Otherwise this effect doesn't work quite as well. So let's jump straight into Premiere, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how we can do this step by step. And like I said, it's a lot easier than you might think. Alright, now that we're in Premiere, we're going to just go through, and I've got my time lapse already loaded onto my timeline. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select my video track, and I'm going to right click it. Then I'm going to come up to this unlink, and I'm going to unlink that, and what that does is that's going to separate my video track from my audio track. So then what I can do is I can select that audio track. I'm just going to come over to the delete key and smash that delete key, get rid of it. We don't want it, we don't need it, so it's gone. Now the next step, we're going to highlight that video track. We're going to hold down the Alt key, and we're just going to drag it up onto another track there. What that's going to do is it's going to duplicate that video track. So now we have two identical videos overlaid on top of each other. So the next step is we need to find our first stage of movement that's going to be masked over or overlaid onto our actual time lapse, where we're doing all that fast sped up motion. Now with this, and with most time lapses, there are generally times, especially if you're shooting outdoors where you kind of have the skies and the clouds and everything going on, where maybe you'll have the sky open up for just a few seconds, and then all of a sudden you get this beautiful light shining down onto your foreground. And I know for a fact that happened a couple of times during this specific time lapse. So I want to go through and find about a 10-second section where I've got that beautiful light coming through, because right now you can see this whole foreground of this time lapse is a little bit gray, it's a little muddy, it's not super bright or poppy, it doesn't have a whole lot of depth to it. So if I go through and I find, let's see, I know there's something right around here. There we go, look at that. So you see how beautiful that is when the light comes through the clouds and just illuminates this foreground? I mean, you take something as ordinary as a freeway here, and all of a sudden you've got this extra depth to it and this dimension that you didn't have before. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 10 seconds starting from about here, and if I scroll through a little bit, you'll notice that I've still got quite a few cars in this section as well. So that's something that I want to make sure that I have, and that's actually a little more important than looking for that kind of nice golden light, is you really want to have that motion. Because remember, this effect works best when we have two separate layers of motion that we can segment out during the effect. So starting off from right about here, I'm going to select the top video track. So on the track 2, I'm going to select that video track, then I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to hit K. And what that's going to do is it's going to cut the video track right where our track header is. As you can see, we now have it split pretty much in half. So then the next thing I need to do is I need to find my endpoint, so where I'm going to stop my time lapse basically. Now for this, I'm just gonna make a 10-second time lapse. Hello. All right, where was I? Sorry about that. So the next thing we need to do is we need to find our endpoint for this time lapse. Like I said, I'm gonna make it about 10 seconds long. So what I need to do, and actually the easiest way to do this, instead of trying to scroll through and look, okay, I'm at 9 minutes and blah, 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 I'm just gonna come up to the timestamp in the left corner of our timeline, and I'm going to just move it forward by 10 seconds. Do that, hit enter. You can see it moves my track header forward 10 seconds. So now I'm going to select the clip that we're going to trim again. And I'm gonna hold down that control and hit K. And again, that's going to segment that video track right where our timeline track header marker guide, blah, 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 is. And now we have a nice, perfectly trimmed 10-second section with that beautiful light, the nice motion, and we can get rid of all this other stuff. So I'm just gonna highlight it, delete that, highlight the other one, delete that, and we are good to go. Now, the easiest way, or the next thing that I'm gonna do, is I'm just gonna click on this empty space in front of our trimmed clip, and I'm gonna hit the delete key again. And that's going to move that clip all the way from where it is to the very start of the timeline. So it just easily shifts it all the way over there. I don't have to worry about dragging it, clicking on it, anything like that. Just shifts it right over for me. So the next thing we need to do is we need to actually create the time-lapse effect for this whole video. Or for this effect, basically. So what we want to do is select our other video clip, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to hit the R key on our keyboard, and that's going to change our tool or our cursor to the rate stretch tool. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to click on the very end of that clip, and then it's going to just drag, and we can control how much we want to speed up or stretch out this clip. So it just, like it says, stretches the rate of the clip. So we're just gonna stretch it and shrink it all the way down until it lines up with our trimmed clip. And now we've got, if I zoom in here, now we have two clips that are exactly 10 seconds long. The clip below is sped up. You can see that 12,900% or something like that, but it's sped up to match the length of our trimmed clip. Now, the next step is where things get a little bit funner. What we're going to do is we're going to select our top video track, and then we're going to come to the editing window. So if you go up to the Windows drop-down menu, you can go to Workspaces, Windows, come on, click Windows, Workspaces, and then select Editing, or you can just click it here from this kind of menu tray in the top. Then we're going to come over to the Effects Control tab, and you want to make sure that, again, you have that video track selected that you want to edit. And we're going to come to the Opacity effect. Now, from here, we want to select this kind of ballpoint pen or this ink pen icon, the Free Draw Bezier, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to select that, and that's going to generate a mask layer on this video track. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we're going to come to this select zoom level on the preview window, and we're going to change it to about 75, maybe, let's zoom it out a little bit more. 50%? Yeah, 50%. That way we have a little bit of gray area all the way around our clip so that we can actually work this mask a little bit easier. Now, the next step is we just want to draw a line all the way across our horizon, and it doesn't need to be super precise, but we want to make sure that we're drawing a line separating the two planes of motion. So we've got all this motion that's going to be happening in the sky, and we've got all these cars going through and driving down this freeway. So we want to make sure that we don't put the mask kind of into either of those sections where the motion is. That's crucial to this effect. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to quickly draw a nice rough mask line through these trees and across the horizon here. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, and if you want to, you can get super precise with this, but for purposes of time, I'm just going to make this pretty quick and rough, and we'll just give you the idea of what to do. So there we go. I've got that drawn all the way across. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to seal this mask or just finish it off. So this is where zooming out 50% on my clip allows me to come all the way to the bottom corner, make another point, come across the clip, make another point, and then just connect the dots. And boom, we've got our mask created. So now, if I come back down to my timeline and I toggle the very first video track, so our one that's underneath the clip we just edited, you can see I've got this big black box where the sky is. That means that we did it properly. Now you could, if you wanted to, come up here and hit invert, and that would basically switch this mask. So instead of it masking out the lower portion of our frame, it'll mask out the top. So depends on which section of the frame you want to mask out, where your motion is, all that fun stuff. Now, the next step, we're gonna undo that invert. The next step is to come over here back to the opacity effect on our second video track, the one that's overlaid, and we're gonna change the mask feather settings. So its default is 10. I'm gonna change it to about 50, which is what I normally go with. And what that does is it takes this edge of our mask and it just gives it a nice soft feathered effect. That way you don't have these super sharp, jagged lines going everywhere. You don't have anything that's kind of standing out a little bit. It's just nice and smooth, and it makes it all blend together a little bit better. Excuse me, a little bit better. So from there, we can come back and we're gonna re-enable our original track on the very bottom. And we are essentially finished with this effect. So now if I let this render out, you will see, well, so now I'm gonna let this render out. It's gonna take about 4 or 5 minutes, at least for my computer. Your computer, the time may vary. If you've got a beast of a machine, it might only take a couple seconds. But for me, it's gonna take about 5 or 6 minutes. All right, now that that's finished and we are back, we're gonna play through this effect here, and you guys can see exactly what this effect looks like. Just like that. So isn't that beautiful? We got all this beautiful light, got those nice, whoa, what was that? Did you guys catch that there? Let me play it one more time. So I'm right around the center here, right there. So it looks like there was probably a gust of wind that hit the camera and just had that little bit of a shake to it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually get rid of that shake. Now, the way we can do this is I'm just going to take the layer that is the time lapse, so our mask layer, the one that actually had that shake to it, and I'm gonna select it. Then we're gonna come up to the effects tab up here at the top and give it a second to load. Then we're gonna come over to our effects bar or effects menu, and we're gonna type in warp. Just like that. So then this brings up the effect warp stabilizer. Now if we take this effect and we drag and drop it onto our clip, you'll notice we get an error. So this is something that I purposely showed you guys because a lot of people don't realize that once you've sped up a clip, you can't warp stabilize it. However, there's a trick to get around that. So we're gonna Control Z, undo that, and then we're gonna right click on our video track that we want to edit here, and we're gonna come up to this nest feature. So we're gonna click that, and it's gonna come up, you can name it whatever you want. We're gonna call it Super Awesome Time Lapse, something like that. Name it whatever you want. And now you notice it turned green. So now if we select that and we drag and drop the warp stabilizer effect onto it, it applied without any issue. So that's one way to get by certain glitches and certain things in Adobe Premiere, is if you have an issue with something that it's not letting you apply a specific effect because you've already done something else to a clip, try nesting it and then reapply whatever you were trying to do. 99% of the time it's gonna work. So we're gonna go through, wait for this to analyze, re-render the clip, and then we'll play it one more time and see if this has fixed that little wobble issue that we saw. Be back with you guys in about 5 to 10 minutes more. Alright, so that is finished rendering. We've got the warp stabilizer effect applied. So let's smash that space bar, smash that like button, and we'll see if this clip turned out alright. And, oh, did you see anything? Did you see it? I didn't see anything. Let's go right back to right around where it was. look at that, beautiful. No more jump, no more wiggle. Seamless, perfect. Effect is done. Now we could go back in, and if we wanted to, we could add in like maybe a zoom. You could start in, have it go from, say you start here, scale it up, or you could just here. Let's add one more level of motion to this just for fun. We're gonna select both clips, we're gonna right click, we're gonna nest them together. Just call this the shiz. Whoops, there we go. Now we've got both clips nested together into a single clip. We're going to come up here to our scale. We're going to start at 100 and let's say 25%. Don't go too much. You don't want to increase that scale too much because then it'll start to lose resolution. But we're going to do 125%, nothing's too crazy. Notice it zoomed the clip in a little bit. Now we can come over here and we're going to click this little stopwatch next to that scale under our effects tab, and that's going to generate a keyframe. Now if we go all the way to the end of our clip, highlight our timeline, hit that down arrow, drags the track header all the way to the end of the clip, reselect that clip, and then we're going to go and we're going to adjust our scale back to 100%, and that'll automatically generate a second keyframe. So it's kind of hard to see, it's all the way at the very last frame of that clip. But now if we just kind of scroll through this, you'll notice that we kind of start zoomed in a little bit as it goes. We've got that beautiful slow motion, normal speed at the bottom, all those fast moving, violent clouds in the top, all that extra beautiful motion. But we've got this third layer of motion where we're coming from a nice zoomed in kind of crop feel and just panning backwards. Just all three layers of motion, all completely different. Just makes this time lapse stand out that much more from everybody else's. And like I said, this effect is so easy to do, only takes a few minutes, and you're ready to go. Alright, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Hope you've enjoyed, hope you learned something. Don't forget to take this effect, use it how you want, and just make it your own. Definitely, like I said, helps improve your time lapses. I think it makes everything just kind of stand out a little bit more, gives it almost this kind of surreal effect to it. It's like, was that a time lapse? Was it not a time lapse? Were those clouds actually going that fast that day? Holy cow, what's going on? It just makes things like, kind of makes you question a little bit more. But that's one thing that's beautiful about it, is I love it. So, smash that like button, hit that subscribe if you aren't already. I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.